trying to play camera operator before the stream started. I don't even know what to do now. I thought I was in a good spot, Chris. Like, fell.
Yeah, because you're going to look at me, and now you're just like completely like this on the stream.
Do you want to move the camera here?
Yeah.
But then what happens when I'm like talking and looking forward?
Just don't look forward. Just kind of stay angled.
I will work on it. By the way, we're moving behind the scenes Wednesday to Thursdays.
Okay. Why not?
Well, because Scott Harris comes in on Wednesdays, and he doesn't like to be part of all the behind the scenes stuff. Then we probably say some things that shouldn't be going on the stream.
Well, we can.
So he's not in on Thursdays. So Tuesday's double shot. I mean, we do Tuesday. But Thursday.
Is he coming in today?
Yeah, he's right outside.
I know
there.
he's right outside, but is he coming in?
Well, he wanted to know our, we're doing the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, sometimes we, bring up things that don't need to be on air. So, behind the scenes Thursday tomorrow.
All right.
Where the camera stays live the whole time.
Okay.
How you doing?
I'm good, Mark.
How's the ink?
It is itchy as hell. But the
by the way, now that I'm looking at it, I cannot help but peripherally look at the camera where I'm not kind of on. Yeah. It's itchy still?
Oh, it's itchy. But the wrap comes off today. The protective cover. So now it's just going to be
Can
lotion.
I share? I mean, your news, you got a hot house?
Oh, God.
Man.
AC went out yesterday about 4:30, 5 o'clock.
No, I really feel bad because I've been in this spot before, and it always happens in the summertime. Yes. It's the worst, right?
So it was brutal. My daughter had to sleep in just her diaper. She woke up. She usually goes to bed about 7:30-ish.
Yeah.
She woke up about 10:15. She was just
right. So you're a couple of hours of a guy saying you're going to need a P5 valve, and if you don't do it, the house is going to blow up. Is that what you feel like is happening?
Honestly, I don't know. My sister referred me to someone who she uses, so I'm hoping that
I asked Chris, is it the AAAAAC repair?
Luckily, no.
See, you don't know what that is, do you?
No.
In the old days, before we had the internet and we used the yellow pages.
What are the yellow pages?
Right. So the phone book, to stand out, you would, not AC repair, the AAAC repairs that you would be.
The first in line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what time are they coming?
I got the between 12 and 2 window.
My
wife will be home.
I'm going to go 12:40.
I'm okay with it. That's right when I get home.
I'm going to say solid window.
That's right when I get home.
All right.
That's brutal.
Are you going to pretend like you know what you're talking about? I checked the Freon, took a look inside, and so that he thought, whoa, dealing with somebody that knows what they're doing.
So my sister came over yesterday. She has a shop
the
vac.
tires a little bit.
My sister's got the shop vac.
Oh,
I don't. So
brought it over?
Yeah. So she's the one cleaning out the drain line and all this and that while I'm watching her son, my nephew. That did not work. So I don't know. I don't know what it is.
All right. I'm sure we'll figure it out.
God, I hope so. My house got up to 87 on the thermostat.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's been a couple really tough months. I mean, everybody's, I'm sure, got a higher electric bill, but man, need a little cool weather to break it down.
Seriously.
Anyway, other than that, you doing all right?
Everything's good.
All right.
Once my daughter had like a tower fan on her, she's sleeping in just her diaper, slept through the night.
I do the same thing.
I was sleeping naked.
No, I just run around in my diaper too at night.
Hey, whatever you do in the comfort of your own home, that's on you.
Last night, like 10:20, my wife said, I'm going to go to bed. I said, I'll be right up, honey. And I fell asleep, and then you wake up like, where? It's 11:40, Who doesn't like, though, when you roll over and you've got that extra 30 minutes like, hey, like I get up at 5:55. Oh, it's 5:20. It's like, great. Isn't it the worst, though, when you roll over like 6 minutes before you got to get up?
Yep.
Oh, the worst. I just get up.
I mean, there's no point in laying in bed.
The worst.
No point in laying in bed.
Keith Smith talks basketball with us coming up at about 10:15 in the program today. There's always something happening in the NBA. Stuart Mandel's going to join us of The Athletic at about 11:35. He's the guest speaker for the Orlando Touchdown Club's first meeting coming up Monday at the tap room at Dubstred. Go to OrlandoTDClub.com to learn about the upcoming list of speakers. I got a little. I can't reveal. Got a little inside info on what looks to be the final speaker of the year, and I'd say pretty big.
Pretty,
Yeah,
pretty,
yeah. So we'll
pretty.
talk with Stuart coming up a little bit later in the program. We got some NFL stuff to get to. Got some college football, which we'll get to. Chris,
Mark.
I'm even going to criticize a place that pays me money.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's over something that has bothered you. Okay. And I guess they didn't do their due diligence.
So are we saying I was right?
I don't know if you're right.
It sounds like you're saying I'm right.
We'll get to some of that coming up. First, though, here's everybody's favorite segment.
It's almost like an unwritten rule that when you become a father, you become king of the bad dad jokes.
What is Forrest Gump's password? One Forrest one.
Are you ready to laugh? We know at least one person is. Here's CB's dad joke of the day.
That's so great.
Second Celsius today. Oh, man. Mark, are you ready?
Hold on. Now I'm looking forward to where I position the camera. So I'm ready. I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at the camera. Go ahead.
Mark, what is a car's favorite book?
I don't know, Chris. What is a car's favorite book?
An autobiography. Auto like a car. Autobiography.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I'll give you that one. It's not bad.
Want to be a part of the show? He's the voice you trust for the teams you love. You're listening to Marc Daniels and the Beat of Sports.
Who's that?
Wrong button. Wrong button.
Don't make me bring Harris in there to take over again. Oh, Scott's very happy we moved all access to tomorrow. Behind the scene. Comes in wearing his Liverpool jacket. Showing off a little bit over there, huh? You can access this show on FM 96.9, AM 740. You can listen on the iHeart app, which is free to download, and make it a preset button. And listen anywhere in the world. You can watch the video stream on our YouTube page at 96.9 The Game. Click on the logo on the live button. You can watch the stream also, getting access on Twitter, 96.9 Game On. Please support that, and you can always listen to the show in podcast form. Go where you get your podcast, type of the Beat of Sports on demand, access the full show, and listen when it's convenient for you.
And follow on Instagram.
And follow on Instagram.
At the Beat of Sports.
At the Beat of Sports. Do all that stuff. So,
tell me I'm right.
Well, we've talked over the last weeks and months about all the lawsuits and eligibility stuff, right? And you got to go judge hunting.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go find the right judge that hey, because now the reports are that Lane Kiffin and his staff were reaching out to players in the NFL that had a fifth year, meaning that they didn't know they were going to get a fifth year, finish up last year, enter the draft, don't get drafted in a camp, and said, hey, file a suit. Like they were advising people. Like Lane Kiffin makes it out like, I didn't know it was going to end up in Baton Rouge. Of course he did. They kind of orchestrated this. But he go judge hunting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yesterday, right here in Orange County, the Ninth Circuit Court got the case of Dean Miller. Dean Miller played at Kansas, a defensive end. Dean Miller was trying to get eligibility through the Diego Pavia route of my junior college years shouldn't count towards my NCAA years. Okay, that was the argument that Diego Pavia, and he's not the only one. Others said, well, wait a minute, yeah, why does that count? So UCF is going through the whole process. The NCAA denies it and says, no. And they get to court. The judge is a Gator.
Found the wrong judge.
Maybe you kind of go hunting a little bit and you just kind of find the right judge. But not the case. Diego, no pun intended, that's his name. Diego Madrigal is the judge of the Ninth Circuit Court. And I'm not saying he didn't rule UCF's way because he's a Gator. He did say, quote, writing on a blank slate, the court would not deprive Miller of this opportunity because part of the presentation was $300,000. He told you what he was going to get and said, I would not make this money if not for this. So the judge writes, writing on a blank slate, the court would not deprive Miller of this opportunity. However, the court does not write on a blank slate. And Chris, this is now where actually you should defend this. And as much as I selfishly would have liked to have him join the defensive ends at UCF, I would be hypocritical because I've argued this. And here's what I've argued. The judge writes, the court's proper role is to fairly and impartially apply the law that controls this situation. In applying the law, and what he's saying is based on previous rulings, there can only be one result. The court must deny Miller's request for a temporary injunction. What he's saying is, I can't supersede what the law has already said about this. So while the judge says, listen, I think you should get the clean slate, go play, but I can't do that. So here's a judge that was applying the law that's been established. So in some ways, this is what we want.
Yeah.
Okay. So that happened in Orange County. And I did send Terry Mahondra, go, hey, did we just not do a little due diligence to find the right judge here or what? Maybe we do a little bit better job. But anyway, I want to get back to, and coming up on 10 o'clock hour, WYJM Orlando, WJRR HD2 Cocoa Beach. When we started the show yesterday and ended the show yesterday, We began the show hours after SEC presidents on Monday night got together on a Zoom conference call and said, "Hey, we don't like this stuff with these NFL guys. You know what? We don't like it." Then when we began the show yesterday, the Big Ten was like, "Hey, we're going to do something about it." Our presidents have unanimously agreed that we want to move forward with a rule that says we're not taking any NFL players. And within 30 minutes, the ACC and the Big 12 said, we're talking about it and likely going to have a decision. I believe today the Big 12 will have a formal vote among ADs. The ACC, the same thing. And then the SEC yesterday put out their own statement. Following meetings with presidents, chancellors, and athletic directors, the SEC will enforce the following policy. Here you go, Chris. An SEC institution is not permitted to have an athlete on its roster who was, one, previously declared for the NFL, NBA, or WNBA draft. So I guess if you're in Survivor Series and you get drafted, you can go back to college and play in the WWE. Signed a contract with an NFL or other professional football league, NBA, G League, or WNBA or affiliate team, or been listed on an NFL, G League, NBA, WNBA roster. The commissioner is authorized to enforce this expectation with penalties against member institutions. So the SEC voted, and Chris, here's the added comedy. It's been reported it was a 16-0 vote. That means who voted for it? What school voted for it?
That would be LSU.
So the president of LSU, who answers to the governor in the structure, voted for it. Okay, couple things here. We'll get back to the LSU side in a second. So these four power leagues in one day, just proved that anything they've wanted to do, they could have done regarding rules. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to get sued, because all four of these leagues may be moving forward with this rule. The question is, can you enforce it, and will your commissioner actually penalize those that are found guilty of it, okay? But nothing has stopped any of these conferences when it comes to everything. Not just taking a guy that's been on an NFL roster and adding him to your roster, anything in regards to eligibility the last couple of years. Nothing stopped him from doing it. Screaming about the Protect College Sports Act, they need congressional help, and all that stuff. Nothing has prevented them. And like I've said for years and years and years and years, everybody yells at the four-letter company that you think makes every rule in college sports, meaning the NCAA, that in the end it always comes down to what the university presidents really want. Commissioners work for the schools that make up the conference. And if you want policy and you want rules, it's up to you to tell the leaders, this is what we want. And it wasn't the hundreds of basketball players that have been playing professionally in Europe, or those that had been on a G League roster, played games, had been in NBA summer leagues. It wasn't that. It wasn't Texas bringing an offensive lineman back who got a judge ruling in Texas to come back that had been in the NFL. It took Lane Kiffin. It took Lane Kiffin, because it's easy when Lane does it to then go, well, that's he was the line. He was the line. Not Charles Bediako, the kid who tried to get back to Alabama playing, who did briefly. Not that. Not the hundreds of European basketball players that have been playing with professional contracts for the last 2 to 3 years. None of that. It took Lane Kiffin wanting to bring back somebody. And Chris, again, say what you want about Lane. And Daquan Wright, can you at least understand his position? And what I mean by that is he finishes up last season at Ole Miss. He doesn't know that a judge is going to grant a fifth year to the class of 2022. So he believes, I can't play college football. I'll enter the draft. Now, he was dinged up his last year. He doesn't get drafted. Okay, he's in 2 NFL camps. And as the whole offseason goes on, then a judge goes, hey, we got a fifth year that we're going to throw out there. To blame him is wrong. Really, it's not his fault. The timing of all that plays a role in it, okay? But now we're going to Now we're going to have morals. Now we're going to be the leaders. Now the adults in the room are going to step up and say, well, here's what we're going to do. We'll put a rule. We're not doing this anymore. Now, like, you couldn't have thought of this a couple years ago, but it's usually how we react. We don't foresee. Because it wasn't just the NCAA that didn't foresee, hey, eventually got to give the players some. It was presidents and coaches and ADs and everybody else. I mean, that's been out there for quite some time. But now Lane Kiffin's the bad guy, so now we're going to have the policy. So now the question is, what do you do at LSU? Oh, and wait a minute, it's not just LSU. Oh, that's right. There are a few other schools that have some of these guys. So what do you do? And by the way, is it just football? Like, can Lane not keep the tight end or the defensive lineman? Because last time I checked, we got a few basketball guys here. I mean, LSU just announced that they're going to bring in a guy that was the Big East Player of the Year 2 years ago. Does he get to play? Keyshawn Hall, who played at UCF 2 years ago. Keyshawn Hall played at Auburn last year. Keyshawn Hall, ready? Assuming he had a fifth year, was out there seeking a place to play. With the recent Friday ruling about the fifth year, he's not eligible right now. But he signed with St. John's to play. That would be school number 5 in 5 years for Keyshawn Hall. What do you mean he signed with St. John's? Well, they signed him. If he gets his eligibility, he's on their team. By the way, you know who's likely headed to Texas Tech?
If you're talking football, that would be Tommy Castellanos.
That would be Tommy Castellanos. Wait a minute. How do you get eligible? Well, you see, he was in a different suit. That was in Kentucky, where he got it. And you're thinking, Kentucky? Is he from Kentucky? No. You just go judge hunting, man. So they found a court that made him not part of the other ruling. So he's eligible, although maybe he's not. But if he is, then he's expected to go to Texas Tech, where On3's got the crystal ball guaranteed to happen. So let's do this now. Texas Tech begins their season in 10 days. This is now where we are, okay? You'll take a quarterback less than 10 days or 10 days from when the season starts, which makes you wonder how healthy Will Hammond is at Texas Tech. And you're like, yeah. Forget it, man. I'm beyond dizzy. But it is comical. It's comical what the Power Four conferences have done in the last 36 to 48 hours. Oh, we got to have congressional help. Oh, we got to break away. Oh, we got to have self-government. You make a rule. The only one who did it recently with success was Brett Yormark in the Big 12 when they put their foot down to Brendan Sorsby. I have no idea, and there's enough legal people that are posting on Twitter that makes me think, hey, let the conferences do this. We'll just sue them, and the conference will have to sue, in this case, LSU. I mean, it never ends. It never ends. But if anybody believed that the conferences didn't have the ability of setting rules and following and enforcing their own rules, they just are doing it in the last 2 days. Now, I don't know what Greg Sankey does at LSU. By the way, notice they didn't bother to set a rule. I mean, we're freaking out because guys in the NFL are coming to college football. Nobody wants the rule going, hey, remember the House settlement and the cap was $21.5 million? Let's hold the line up. No one's pushing that one. Can't have that when the rosters are $40, $50 million. No one's pushing a rule on that one. But this is the one that we're going to die on. This is the one. Okay. And maybe it's enforceable. Because, and remember, this is one of many. This will not be a problem next year. The whole thing was the implementation of 5 for 5, 5 years. That's it. No red shirt. You get 5 years to play. This is about what they did in eligibility for 2022 players. As we go to next year, the 5 for 5 is in place. We will not get that. We'll have other eligibility issues forever. But that's what's led to most of this. So the question of what if a guy like you brought up yesterday, what if, because I can go to the NFL after 3 years, what if I go and I'm not drafted? Well, what they're telling you now is, sorry, dude, if you sign even to go to camp, you're done. If you enter the draft and don't get drafted, you can't come back. Okay. Does anybody think that won't lead to a lawsuit? Of course it will. But at least you have conferences that are saying, I'm willing to fight. This is something that I'm willing to fight on, and let's see if it holds.
Did you see this couple of tweets sent out by Ross Dellinger?
Seen a lot
yesterday?
of tweets of Ross, but
Ryan Downton, one of the attorneys representing players in Louisiana,
believes that the SEC policy can't hold.
The NCAA should be held, quote, in contempt of court for permitting conferences under its purview to blatantly violate court orders.
And then I could show you, including our good friend Scott Snyder was on yesterday, that will say that conferences have a right to set their own rules.
Separately, apparently this attorney, considering the appropriate legal response to hold the Big Ten and SEC accountable for their cartel-like coordination.
Okay.
What are we doing?
But he's an attorney that's going to fight, and we're not ending all the legal battles here. It's conferences now that say, all right, no, we're going to set rules. Now we want to set rules because that bad guy Lane Kiffin. Now we're going to set the rules. CBS Sports and John Talty had the story of what Kiffin has apparently been doing with his staff, just targeting players and saying, this is what you got to do. You got to get yourself connected in the lawsuit, and you file it here in Baton Rouge, and we got the judge that'll take care of it. And that's how those 16 players got the eligibility. And he claims, well, we weren't the only school recruiting them. Maybe true, but you told them the format had to do it. And to join the lawsuit in Louisiana, where you were the judge, including Will Wade in basketball, who was and is telling players, just file the suit and do it here, and I've got the judge that'll get you eligible. So the question comes back to, what does the SEC do with LSU? And what does LSU do with the SEC? That ain't over. Keith Smith takes us off the world of college eligibility to the NBA hardwood with his weekly visit next.
Time to talk basketball with Keith Smith. The latest on the Magic and around the NBA. Follow Keith on Twitter at Keith Smith NBA.
All right, we always have basketball to get to, and Keith Smith is kind to give us his time, support his work on X or Twitter, Keith Smith NBA. Get the links, everything, his video shows, and in-depth comments and previews and all sorts of stuff. Good morning, Keith. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
I want to start with everything that's happening in college sports the last couple of days, because I guess there, maybe a trickle down here as we have the major conferences now trying to get some consistency on this whole deal about guys that were playing professionally. They're trying to go back to college, and I've said the last couple of days now they want to have some moral control here for football, basketball. Good grief, where they've been the last couple of years, but. I don't know what the end's going to be, but if we see a little bit more consistency where the SEC says, like, look, if you were on an NBA roster, if you're on the G League, if you gave up your rights to enter a draft, you can't come back. I don't know what the NBA is thinking as they watch here, but I'm curious your thoughts on if it means anything. Clearly, European invasion has happened in college basketball, but what do you make of the last couple of days? And is it anything the NBA is watching closely and isn't an issue for the NBA?
Yeah, I'll start with it's incredibly confusing to follow, even as someone who, like, this is what we do for a living, because it feels like every day it changes. There's another court ruling that says players are eligible. No, they're not. Well, they are because they filed in this state versus that state and all these other things. So, one, I would like to just have some real thing here, but I think the real battle that the NCAA and their conferences and schools are going to have on their hands is, why is it okay for a player, and I'm going to use basketball because this is the bigger example, to get paid to play professionally outside of the NBA sphere, but then still be eligible to play in college, as we've seen this massive influx of European players to college basketball, because now they can get the same, and in a lot of cases more money than they would in Europe. Why is that okay, but it's not okay if I played in the G League or I played somewhere else? I think you got to draw at least some level of line. If you've played in an NBA game, why are you eligible to play in college? But the question I think they're going to be strictly from a employment laws and all those other things is, why is the NBA different from playing in the Euro League? Well, what is the difference there? Now, the other thing I'll say is, I knew what ultimately was going to happen here, where this was really going to become a thing, is when football got involved, when football got there, because we know NCAA, with the NCAA, football drives the agenda all the time. And I'm not complaining about it, but maybe that'll finally lead to some level of clarity here.
Yeah, I don't know. I've talked to Mike O'Donnell about this, and I wonder if the NBA and FIBA would recognize a certain level that is more than, because there's no college basketball in Europe. And, some of the players that play for these academies that do get paid, it's not the same as if you're playing in a first or second division. That I would wonder, could they recognize leagues and say, look, once you play here and get paid, you're a professional. For example, LSU yesterday or 2 days ago, Gilad Levy is from Israel. He's 24. I looked up. He has signed 3 professional contracts already, beyond the age of 19. Now, he averages 2 points a game. Maybe it's not that big of a deal, but it looks like he's played in 80 pro games already. How could he come to this country and be a college freshman?
Yeah, it's wild. I know Yam Madar, who the Celtics drafted years ago, and has been playing overseas for various clubs. He was a player who was also reportedly going to go to LSU, and that one was told absolutely not. We're not approving that. But it is definitely very confusing. Isman Almanza, who was in the G League Ignite program, went undrafted, went overseas to play. Now he's trying to enroll in college. It's kind of all over the place. And then that's before you mention the things like, guys like James Najee, who was, draft rights are held, and then he came back to play. And then these guys who have, seemingly washed out with G League opportunities going back, like we saw with, a handful of other players. So I'm really, confused. I would like something to be made official. Just for my simple brain, I like knowing that if a player was in college for 4 or 5 years, they were then draft eligible. Like, that was also nice to know. And now we've got, these guys got the COVID year, but these guys didn't, and now these guys get the 4 and 5, and these guys don't. It's all very, very confusing. And there are even teams that are looking at players and like, I don't know where this guy's going to even be playing this upcoming season.
Let's move on to stuff that we do know. Klay Thompson did join the Heat. He took a little bit less to help the Heat there. The Heat still have to add some players, but thoughts on Klay and what Klay are they getting? Look, there's a Klay Thompson that's going to go down as one of the NBA's best shooters. He probably still can catch and shoot. He did play, I think it's 69, 72 games the last couple of years, but he's not the same player. So what is Miami getting here?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk of, the Heat now have elite defenders at all 5 positions, and I would push back pretty heavily against that. Klay Thompson, since the injuries, has not been anything near an elite defender. If we remember, during the Dynasty Warriors years, he guarded the opposing team's best ball handler, and that was just how they did it. And Stephen Curry was then allowed to, hide on whoever the worst offensive player was. And that was a big key to their success, along with obviously Curry and Draymond Green and the other players that they had. But that was big for the way they drew things up. He can't do that anymore. He doesn't move his feet like that. He's been defending more 3s and 4s since he returned, but that's okay, right? They'll figure that out. And then you get to the place with the Heat. This team needed more shooting. They just needed more guys who could play. Klay now, at this point, he's pretty much a catch and shoot guy. He still can come off screens and shoot. He's still a great spot up shooter. He's strictly a 3-point shooter now. He doesn't take a lot of 2-pointers anymore. Most of his shots are there. He can't really beat guys off the dribble. His rise on the jumper isn't what it once was. But if you're getting a guy to come in who's still a solid-ish defender and can really help with your shooting, that's huge. I don't know that he ultimately ends up being a starter. I don't know if it even really matters. Maybe he starts and he's one of the first guys out. I don't know how many games he closes for Miami, but this is going to help them. And like you said, he took less money, which allows them to fill their last couple of roster spots. They got to fill one, and if they want to fill the 15th one right away, they'll be able to do that.
For the last 3-4 years, the Heat have I think tried to get DeMar DeRozan. I don't know if he just doesn't like the idea of playing in Miami, but he goes to Denver. Took the vet number there. Thoughts on DeRozan and Denver?
Yeah, I think for DeMar DeRozan, there's a couple things at play. One, I think with Miami, he looked and saw, all right, I'm definitely coming off the bench there. And then once they get Klay Thompson, who was clearly their focus because they wanted that shooting, which DeRozan doesn't bring, I think he was like, all right, with Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Pelle Larson, who they really like, there's not really a path for me to play. And with Denver, where they are not going to have Peyton Watson back, there's now clearly a path to play. Now, DeRozan's kind of a weird fit in Denver. They've been, hey, you better be able to really shoot or you better be a great cutter. And he's not either one of those things. He's more of a guy you give the ball to and let him do his thing. But I think what the Nuggets are going to do here is bring him off the bench. And I think they are going to, basically say, all right, hey, the bench unit is yours. You do your thing. Like you go out there and, do your thing as a scorer, playmaker, and lead those bench units. And I think he'll still be pretty successful in that role.
We're almost September. Jalen Duren doesn't have a signed contract still.
Yeah, and I just put a piece up. It just went up just before we started talking on SpotTrack.com about restricted free agency. We've had 7 players between last offseason and this offseason that have been on the market into late August and even into late September, and that's unusual. Now it's been talked about so much. The NBA, from their official league communications account, took the very rare step of basically saying, hey, this isn't a problem. Like, this is something that happens every year. There's a couple players that are on the market and negotiations continue late into the offseason. So I wanted to look into, is that true? And it's kind of sort of true, but there's real context in there. So on SpotTrack, I really dove deep into it. As far as it goes with Jalen Duren, I don't know that, where we're at, because it seemed like for quite a while, this was kind of the much more money for a better player, but kind of like the Josh Giddey situation. He wanted something in the range of $40+ million. The Pistons wanted to play him something in the range of 30 million or so. And it felt like I just meet in the middle around 35, 36, 37 million, get this done, and everybody moves on. But now there's been a lot of reporting that things have kind of turned sideways with this, and that they're not necessarily getting along in the same way that they were before. And that could be, signs of real problems here. We've got about a month before, you really want them signed. You don't want this to linger into media day and the start of training camp. And I think what's being forgotten, because a lot of people are like, he kind of stunk in the playoffs. Jalen Duren was awesome in the regular season. He was pretty good in the playoffs the year before. So this is a really, really good player and a really important player for the Pistons. And they don't really have the depth. They've got a couple nice backups, but they don't have the depth to mess around with this too much. I still expect something to get done, but we'll find out. Is long-term damage been done here with their relationship?
Maybe because of where he plays. He's an under-the-radar guy, but he averaged almost 21. Shaden Sharp in Portland, played in 50 games last year, but out now, 6 months with a meniscus tear?
Yeah, torn meniscus, and we'll find out. You kind of go with the 6 month initially, and then there's all the which direction is the repair going to take and all that, and sometimes that ends up adding a few months on. There's a real world where we don't see Shaden Sharp on the floor this season. 6 months takes us to the end of February, maybe even the beginning of March, and at that point, it might be where's he at and where are the Trailblazers at in their season. Now, the good news for Portland, if you want to take any kind of silver lining out of this, is they've got guard depth for days on that team. Damian Lillard is going to return to the floor. They traded for John Morant. That's an odd fit, but they're going to try to make it work. They still have Drew Holiday. They have Scoot Henderson, who came back last year and played some of the best basketball he's ever played. And in addition to those four guys, Denny Avdia on the offensive end functions as a primary playmaker. So they've got plenty of depth to get through this injury to Shaden Sharp, but it's definitely, one where this is a tough blow for an important player to a team that's, they're going to try to hang on to being a playoff team in the Western Conference, and that's always easier said than done when you're in the kind of bottom half of the playoff picture.
One last one. Obviously people look at Jalen Brunson and the contract that he took and the money left on the table. The Knicks don't have to deal with that, though, for a couple of years, but they do have a Karl Anthony Towns situation, not this year, but then it's a player option in the following year, which is $61 million. My guess is he wants one last massive contract. We got time to really forecast, but an early crystal ball, what do you think the Knicks think about the Cat situation? Again, he's under contract this year. Next year, it's a player option at $61 million. I don't think the Knicks want to give him a max deal.
Yeah, and the important thing when you factor in for Cat is he is extension eligible right now. And if you don't extend him, what you run into the risk of is you could lose him for nothing next summer. And free agency has not really been a thing in the league in recent years because it's just not really how business gets done. Business tends to get done more, guys extend, and then eventually trades happen. But part of that is there haven't been a lot of great free agents. If teams had a sense of, hey, Karl Anthony Towns is available, there are 7 to 10 teams that reasonably could have cap space next season. And in a world where tanking isn't really a thing anymore the way it used to be, a lot of those teams might be looking at it and saying, hey, let's try to go get something done here. Even like a team like the crosstown Brooklyn Nets, they could have enough cap space to basically say, hey, Cat, you want a max and you don't even have to move and just come play for us as we build this thing up. Chicago is in a place. Golden State could have cap space. That's been a team he's been linked to for years and years. So there's definitely a lot out there where things could happen, and that puts the Knicks in a little bit of a tough spot. And I'm with you when you say they don't really probably want to give him a max deal because they let Mitchell Robinson go, and they said the second apron was a real reason for that. If you max out Cat, you're going to be over that second apron almost, guaranteed in the next season unless you start shutting out other players as well. So I think they're in a pretty interesting spot here. And I know Brunson took less and Bridges took less, but OG Anunoby's on a max deal. Josh Hart's eventually going to need paid here in another year or so. And I don't know that Cat's necessarily going to be like, hey, let me take less, because I think you're right. I think he's going to want one more big contract. So this is going to be a really fascinating situation to follow here through the next couple of months. and then to see what happens, because there is paths where they could decline the player option, extend them in season, and figure it out that way. But this is definitely a fascinating one for one of the NBA's best teams and the defending champions.
And I think there's always a championship emotional factor in these things. Like, well, he won a title, so both sides love each other, and at some point, business has to win out. That's what I think makes his story interesting in the next couple of years. Keats on X or Twitter, Keith Smith NBA. Please support his work, and you get the links to everything that he's doing right there. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you for having me. Please check out that piece about restricted free agency, because this is a really, hot topic in the league right now, and I dove deep into the data to try to figure out the truth.
Good stuff. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate that. Stuart Mandel of The Athletic talks college football. That's about 11:35 on the program. When we come back, though, in the National Football League, tanking with this team almost happened, or maybe it did, and it looks like it's happening again. That story next.
Hey, what's up? This is Pat Lynch.
And I'm talking about you're not rocking out with WJRR.
Lock it in here with Marc Daniels and the beat of sports.
Just saw Taven Jackson named the starting quarterback at North Texas, former UCF quarterback. Good friend. These days, everybody's got former quarterbacks playing somebody else.
Yep.
The way that it is. Big vote tomorrow. Next one for the Rays over in Tampa.
More renderings.
More renderings and all sorts of cool stuff. They may get this one tomorrow. Remember the deadline was, if we don't get this done by the beginning of June, the stadium will never be ready. Here we are, September. It'll be fine. They may do this one. Although, man, did they play a shell game of money? Ooh. Oh, we'll see. That's tomorrow. I played a couple of clips earlier in the bridge with Kelly and I, Chris. I don't want to play them again here. We're headed to the third and final preseason game, and you're fine-tuning some stuff and not playing many starters and everything. And I said this, that Omar Kelly writes for the Miami Herald. He's covered the Dolphins for many years, and he sent a tweet yesterday just before noon. It was Dolphin practice is over. The Dolphins' offense was a disaster. They were so bad, Malik Willis got the team together for a talk midway through, and it didn't help. Okay? This is Bobby Slowick, their offensive coordinator, asked questions about their struggles on offense. Now, they had 3 first downs against the Giants on Saturday. They didn't play 4 projected starters in the offensive line. It's believed they didn't play them because they don't have backups that they believe can play in a regular season game. But this is Slowick, and if you're a Dolphin fan, I mean, you won't get fired up when you hear this.
But when you reviewed the film, what did you notice relative to why the Giants had too many pressures?
Yeah, really, we just weren't on our assignments, you know what I mean? Which has kind of been a thing. I think as you go through camp, we have probably what's going to wind up being one of the younger offensive rosters in the NFL. And just the consistency of our assignments as a starting point is definitely something that we got to continue to improve on. Like, we're well aware we have a long way to go. And it starts with just doing our job first. And then within that, making sure our technique's right, our fundamentals are right. That practice was fun. There was a lot of back and forth. We actually did a lot of runs. Like, our run game was pretty solid in the 12th practice. But the pass game, particularly with protections, that happens.
I'm sorry, the sirens make it perfect, though.
Yeah, they're actually going to look for a semblance of a Miami Dolphins offense.
Then Jeff Hafley yesterday was asked about the safety position. Okay, the Dolphins are going to play a regular season game in a few weeks, and here's his answer.
I think we're still evaluating that. I mean, if I'm just going to be completely honest with you, like I try to be, I think for a lot of positions you could ask that same question, and I think for where we are right now, we're evaluating that for a lot of positions. That's why this week, like, this is an important week for the evaluation process, and I think safety is one of those positions where we're still trying to figure that out.
In 2019, whatever you want to believe, that was the year that allegedly Stephen Ross went to Brian Flores and said, I'll give you $100,000 for every loss. That was the supposed tank year. And the NFL investigated and concluded that that was not the case. And while Ross got fined for the Tom Brady meeting on the boat, and Brian Flores ends up suing the National Football League after losing his job. But the Dolphins wanted to not win games to get a high draft pick. And you might remember they played better second half of the year. In the beginning of the season, the Dolphins had healthy scratches of starters. Projected starters were healthy scratches.
The tank for Tua.
And again, the league investigated and concluded that that was not the case. And whatever you want to accuse the league of, there was no way the league was going to conclude that Stephen Ross had done what he was accused of. And it ended up being Flores' word versus Ross. In the NBA, it's easy to watch and see when teams have mailed in the season. Now, I say easy. I've always said this. I don't think any team of the NBA that sends players out to play and coaches to coach is purposely losing a game. But you can rest starters, you can hold guys out, and put out a roster that night that doesn't have a chance to win. Okay? In football, we don't really have the same view other than when a team builds a roster and you look at it and you go, that just is not going to win a lot of games. Because I believe the same thing. I don't think, speak for yourself, that any team that comes out of the locker room to play a game is trying to lose. Players that are playing for their next contract. We want them to care about our city, the logo, all that stuff. But players play to stay in the league and to make money. We all agree upon that. So I don't think a team gets together and goes, hey, let's make sure we, really give this one away. No. But if you don't put a team together that has a chance to win, then in some ways it'll take care of itself. You might get lucky because one day some other team makes so many mistakes. But Miami, and I was reading more of Omar's story because then he wrote a piece about projecting the 53-man roster. And you can go read it at the Miami Herald. He's having a hard time coming up with 53 players. The Dolphins yesterday, they're waving wide receivers, adding. And when you get Kupp with the Giants at wide receiver and you're getting picked up in minutes, and as Omar writes, this roster simply is going to struggle to compete in games. So whatever you define modern-day tanking in the National Football League, maybe the Dolphins are this year's poster child, which Chris, you'll say makes it even more confusing what they did with Malik Willis, which I do agree. I don't think Jeff Hapley's trying to lose games. I don't care. When he was presented with a chance to be head coach in the NFL, and there are 32 of those jobs, you take it. The challenge is, can you discipline yourself to understand what it's going to take to get to where you want to go? I'm not talking about winning a Super Bowl. I'm talking about to be a competitive team week in and week out. And clearly, a general manager that he knows quite well of his last stop said, look, this is going to be a project. And we're going to have to go through it maybe a very difficult year to truly bottom out, to rid ourselves of the Tua situation and a few other dollars that are, it's just dead money that we can't afford to go out and upgrade certain positions. And we're going to take our lumps, and we got to get a high draft picks because that's part of the rebuilding process. It doesn't make it easier for the coach, and that's where you get Halfley like, hey, I don't know where we're at safety, and we're kind of – he knows. I can't afford to go get guys that are all-pro type players, so we got to piecemeal this. And he knows he's got a challenge this season.
And again, I question the Malik Willis signing. But I'm going to go back even further. Given how bad this roster is, knowing you can't sign really anybody, if you knew you were going to be this horrendous, why not just keep Tua and save the money, save the dead cap?
Again, you and I have gone back and forth in this. I think they, no sense. But I think they wanted to rid themselves of what became just a problem in the locker room, and in some ways, I would argue it was the right decision because look what's happening in Atlanta. He looks like he's going to lose out to a quarterback that looks like he's a permanent injury in Michael Penix. So whatever it was, I think they wanted a clean slate, but they'll try to compete week in and week out. It is just like, and again, basketball's easier. It's exactly like, if you can remember, if you were a Magic fan, those first couple years of Jock Vaughn, it wasn't because players didn't try to win on a nightly basis. The roster, by design, wasn't going to have a chance on most nights. They just had no chance. Once in a while, you hit some shots, and the other team's like, hey, backside of a back-to-back, and and it looks as if it's exactly where Miami is, where you're like, we got to take our lumps. Not just at quarterback. I mean, good God, this team isn't just a quarterback away, let alone a rookie quarterback away. It's all over. And You can give me all the last to first examples in the NFL, like we've talked about. The Lions are just different, okay? Because 2 years ago, they're one of the best teams of the NFL, and last year was last year with injuries and so forth. That's a bounce back that's right there. In this case, for Miami,
they're not going to win 2 games.
No, but can I tell you something else that I think? Remember, I said this the last couple of years about Stephen Ross. When your age begins with an 8, you want to win. Part of me thinks, look at the succession plan that he now has announced and put in place. And to the best of my knowledge, Stephen Ross isn't ill. I think he's almost accepting, here's a succession plan because I'm not quite sure I'm going to be here when this thing eventually gets turned.
This is going to be a multi-year. This is going to be a 3, 4, 5-year rebuild.
I don't know. Maybe sometimes it happens quicker in the NFL because of the flexibility of how you can work the salary cap, but it certainly looks like 2026 is going to be brutal. Just brutal.
And they still have one more year worth of massive dead cap money for Tua.
Yes. Yeah. And I admit, I'm taking a couple of cuts from a head coach and an offensive coordinator and kind of magnifying it. And I did watch about 8 to 10 minutes of Hafley's presser.
Ugh. Why?
Like I listened this morning. John Harbaugh was on WFAN, and I wanted to listen to him when I came into the office. I'm listening. And I'm not telling you the Giants are going to be a championship contending team, but at least he's got some things that he can sell you on. Malik Neighbors looks like, he asked when we'd be ready week 1 against the Cowboys. He goes, look, he's been out of the red jersey, and he looks good. And, Jackson Dart, more comfortable, the offensive line. Defensively, the Giants have some players. He's a little bit more optimistic for good reason because there is some talent there. But when you're searching, teams hit the waiver wire all the time now. Chris, for spots 46 to 53.
Mm-hmm.
You may get a couple of injuries like, hey, we're going to need that fourth linebacker. Find somebody. When you're looking at guys that you think have to be part of a 2 deep, that's a big time sign of just what the year's going to be like. Ouch.
I'll keep saying it. Jeff Hafley won't be there in 3 years.
He might be Jacques Vaughn.
He is.
We need somebody to be here for the transition that is grateful to be a head coach and will have the patience to allow the team to rebuild. Maybe that's the case. But
it's really bad.
It'll be a long year because you can't afford any injuries, because if you're void of talent to begin with and then you lose a couple of guys, it just has a domino effect. So we'll see. 11 o'clock hour, we'll kick off with the news next.
Let's really do the news.
Yes.
Now it is time to do the news.
But now it's time for the news.
11 o'clock hour, WYGM Orlando, WJRHT2 Cocoa Beach, Orlando Sports Center, Marc Daniels, Beat of Sports. We move behind the scenes Wednesday to Thursdays because Scott Harris is hanging out on Wednesdays. He doesn't like all the attention.
I did ask you to do that.
Chris, he doesn't like to be part of the behind the scenes. We just leave the cameras up and the mics on.
I just do what I'm told.
We'll do it tomorrow. God doesn't want to be a part of it. Football news. Injuries. Reuben Bain has an AC sprain. His air conditioning's broke too.
I got a guy if he needs it.
Nothing serious. Expect to be ready for week 1 for their game against the Bengals. Taking part in a joint practice with the Jaguars are the Bucks, and wasn't expected to play in their preseason finale, but they'll be extra safe now. Giants have lost wide receiver Calvin Austin III, torn ACL. Okay. He had 31 catches for the Steelers last year. OBJ, baby.
Stop it.
66 catches.
Stop it.
9 touchdowns. Yeah, that wasn't good news that I just saw with that injury. ACL. Ugh. Awful. Meanwhile, college sports yesterday, the SEC responding as other Power 4 conferences were moving forward with rules to not allow players that have been on an NFL roster to come back. The SEC says NFL, NBA, WNBA players, once you get on a roster, whatever form it is, you can't come back. But that appears to be now something that the conferences will try to enforce. Baseball. The Royals won their 9th straight game, becoming the first AL team since the 1910 White Sox to win that many games and still be so far under 500. They're now 59-74. Red Sox got a Jaron Duran grand slam to beat the Marlins last night, what sounded like Fenway South down in Miami. The Rays lost, and the Yankees blew a lead to the Astros. That cheating second baseman punk. What? Huh?
Someone sounds bitter.
Huh? Oh, it wasn't a wire on me. Was it a wire?
It was a tattoo.
Uh-huh. Chris, Scott, you seen Chris's new ink? Yeah?
Fresh.
What he also promised to do is going to do the Cowboys schedule week by week and add a
Win-loss?
yeah.
Hell yeah, that'd be cool.
The automated ball strike system's been approved in college baseball. The ruling gives teams the option when available to implement the system. It's expected to be in conference play for the upcoming college baseball season. The PGA Championship announcing changes to the PGA Tour finale, little match play action, part of a 2-week tour finale. I don't mind being a little bit creative along the way. It's fine. Christian McCaffrey, 413 touches last year. Over the last 11 seasons, let's see if I got this right here. Oh, never mind. Took it to mean something else. 413 touches for McCaffrey. Man, that's a lot. Holy smokes. Didn't realize that. Bouncing back to baseball, Aroldis Chapman notched his 30th save of the season, 4th pitcher in MLB history with 10 such seasons. Mariano Rivera 15 times, Trevor Hoffman 14, Lee Smith 10. I'm
Surprised Eric Gagne's not up there.
Sure, he gets a shipment from Malaysia every other week as well. What?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Huh? What? The hand of God ball that Diego Maradona infamously netted in the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal sold for $3.35 million in an auction. They were hoping to get $10 million. Boy, that's off by a lot.
For a ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
For a ball.
Klay Thompson has 2,899 career three-pointers. He's 75 shy of passing Ray Allen for third most all-time. Would you care to guess who he would trail once he passes Ray Allen?
That'd be Reggie Miller.
No.
No.
Both are still active.
Okay, Steph Curry.
Yes.
Dylan James Harden.
Yes. Very good. Nice job, Chris.
Thank you.
Nice job. And let's see. U.S. Open gets set to begin. They've had the mixed doubles event, which will feature Serena Williams and Carlos Alcaraz in the final. That was rigged. And tonight, as Scott Harris said, does the Little League World Series go on for a month? It does. Yeah. I think we're down to 8 teams left. Yankees Astros tonight on Prime. But you know what that means?
What does that mean?
At 7:15 tonight, I will do the following: MLB Network, TBS, TNT, Truth TV, FS1, FS2, and then I'll eventually find my way to go to Prime. And by then, it'll be the bottom of the 5th. And I will have thrown something at my large screen. It never fails. It never fails. You know? I mean, yeah. No, because I have to go there because whatever package I'm already paying for, it becomes a national broadcast. It goes over there, and and then you make one wrong move on the remote, right? You just press the wrong thing, and it's like, why is Tubi up? I don't even have it. Why is Peppa Pig on my screen right now? I'm supposed to be watching the Yankees. Never fails.
Make it so complicated for us.
I just sound like the old guy on the porch right there, though. Big time. Stuart Mandel coming up at the bottom of the hour to talk a little college football. We've got other college football that I want to get to when the Beat of Sports continues next.
Beat goes on. The chains keep moving, and Marc Daniels is dialing up deep balls. Welcome back to the Beat of Sports.
Stuart Mandel, the Athletic, coming up next segment. We'll talk college football. We'll do a little college football here now as well. Tomorrow night is the first official games of the 2026 season. Got a few Thursday games in week 0. Florida State plays this weekend against New Mexico State. Can I play a clip of our good friend Danny Cannell?
Yes.
Danny, doing a lot of shows before the season starts here. And here was Danny on the next round show and asked about Florida State and just the negativity that's happening at FSU.
Like, what is it like around the negativity around the program? This is the most negativity I've felt in 30 years. Like, basically, since I've been there, I have never seen a fan base as checked out, as negative, and almost wanting to see Mike Norvell fail so they can move on, because everybody thinks the next great coach is around the corner. But as we've seen, it doesn't always necessarily work out that way. I think Mike Norvell is a really good game planner. That might be surprising to some, and I'm actually excited to see what he does now, taking back over the game plan as the offensive play caller. It was handed off to Gus Malzahn, but he was calling plays with Jordan Travis when they went undefeated. I think that's something that he won't have the advantage of being able to keep things up his sleeve. I think he's a really good motivator when things are good, like and at practice. Like, I think he holds his players' attention at practice every single day. He brings the energy.
Look, we've talked about Florida State's situation. In fact, you asked me yesterday, I think you posted the clip, how many wins to keep his job. And it's always dangerous when you do this before year starts. And the example that we ended up settling on is if they were 6-5 and got blown out by Florida, I didn't think he would coach a bowl game. Which then, of course, these days you just vote to not even play in the bowl game and something like that. And Danny goes on to talk about the same thing, that there's part of the fan base that wants him to win 3 or 4 so he gets fired and things like that. But what is the thing in there that Danny said, which we've talked about before, that I don't care what level of football you play at, you have to have? What is it? He mentioned a certain name that played a certain position the last time that a Florida State fan kind of enjoyed the year. He mentioned Jordan Travis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I plan on talking about this today, and actually in promoting Mike Bianchi had a column today that's not similar to what I'm talking about, but about our current quarterback position in Florida and where we're at. And in college football, and yes, it matters in the NFL, I just believe that if you have a special player at that position, it can carry you through games that maybe you shouldn't win. In the NFL, I just think, Dolphins aside, that the talent is a lot more balanced. And that's what makes the elite quarterbacks different. A healthy Mahomes and Allen, and of course going back to Brady and things. But in college football, if you got a playmaker, if you got somebody that can bail you out, keep a play alive, extend a drive, do something you're like, oh my God, it will win you football games. And the biggest problem in our state in college football has been that position. It's gotten coaches fired. It will continue to get coaches fired. It gets coaches extensions. And it applies not just in our state, but everywhere. Okay? And you could go around and you can do this all day. Okay? Ashton Daniels will start for Florida State at quarterback. Okay? Tommy Castellano, DJ Ongolele, then Jordan Travis. Okay? It was James Blackman, Alex Hornibrook, that's back in 2019, DeAndre Francois in 2018, Francois, Sean McGuire, Everett Golston back in 2015. You go to Jameis in 2013 and 14, E.J. Manuel, Christian Ponder, Drew Weatherford, Chris Ricks. Not great NFL names, but consistent quarterbacks that were able to help you win games. But look at the mess since then at Florida State. Other than Jordan Travis, from 2015, okay, and Travis the quarterback for 3 years, but nothing. Just subpar, particularly a place that had a standard of quarterbacks. So you're not going to At UCF. Again, the last healthy season a quarterback's played at UCF was 2020. Dylan Gabriel, 69%, 32 touchdowns, 4 picks. That was the COVID year, 6-4. It wasn't a great. It was 6-4, but after that, he gets hurt. It's totally different for Gus. It's Mikey Keene at quarterback. Like Mikey, that ain't the offense UCF was going to run. Then John Rice Plumlee hadn't played the position in a number of years. Made him a quarterback. Love him as a person. Then JRP and Timmy McClain. Then KJ Jefferson and the rest of that group. And then last year with everybody. That's not good enough. And again, I've said this before, last year, and even in defensive Gus, once KJ Jefferson, good God, in that Florida game, and it was obvious, UCF ran maybe a third, 40% of its offense. Last year, Scott Frost, I don't think ran a third of his offense. You just scale back the playbook, right? Florida. Let's play that game, okay? Because the last guy to give you some consistency is Kyle Trask, right? Graham Mertz had decent numbers, then he got hurt, okay? But DJ Lagway, Mertz, then he gets hurt. Anthony Richardson, right? Emory Jones before Trask. Malik Zaire. Oh, God. Felipe Franks. Boy, Felipe Franks. Luke Del Rio. Austin Appleby. Will Greer. Treon Harris. Skyler Morningweg. Tyler Murphy. Then I got to go back to Jeff Driscoll. Look at the last dozen seasons at Florida. Kyle Trask was actually really good. So you got to get it right. You know? I did the same thing in Miami prior to the last couple of years. Tyler Van Dyke, he had, like 2+ games, he thought, and then it was like, no, never mind. This isn't very good. And then Miami got it right. Got lucky. They patiently waited for Cam Ward while Florida State wasn't willing to wait, and it worked for them. And then they got rewarded with Beck last year, and then we'll see if they get rewarded with Darian Mensah. But that's the biggest reason our state doesn't have our teams at the level that fans believe the program should be. And any fan base right now, including Miami, UCF, Florida State, if I tell the Gator fan right now, hey, Fiddle's going to stay healthy, the ultimate optimist says, I think they can win 8 games. Maybe not the same enthusiasm at Florida State, but if you say, okay, he's going to be healthy and Mike Norvell's back calling offense, you think, all right, maybe we can win 7, 8 games. If I tell a UCF fan, Alonzo Barnett's going to be healthy for 12 games, right? Darian Mensah. But if I say, yeah, Barnett's going to play 6 games. Darian Mensah's going to play 5 games. That's it, man. That's it. That's how it all changes. So our state is stuck in a quarterback quandary. And in a transfer portal world that we live in, being able to consistently have a guy that you know can be there for 2-3 years, forget 4, 2-3 years, forget that. We're trying to get guys for 1. We're just trying to get guys for 1 year. I mean, in Florida, you think of great quarterbacks, you just keep waiting for the next guys. I mean, at UCF, I'll give Dillon credit. Dillon had a couple of good years. It was McKenzie and Dillon, and you're yearning for that. At Florida State, think about Jordan Travis. Jordan Travis never amazed you, but you go back and take a look compared to what they got now, you're like, that was pretty good. Pretty good. Limited mistakes, knew where to put the ball, and it was good. I mean, Hurricane fans know some of the awful, awful performances at quarterback before the portal world said, let's go spend all this money and we'll get these guys. So you got to keep guys healthy and hope that they're productive. Otherwise, I don't care what you got. I don't care how. And Miami's defensive line, it may end up being as good as last year. We'll see. But if you can't keep Mensa healthy, forget it. Yeah, but they'll run the ball. Yeah, they got one of the best running back rooms in the country. But I don't care if you don't have a guy that can throw the football and extend plays, extend drives, pull out that win that you're not supposed to because the day's not going your way. You can't be successful. And it's every program in the country, but in the last couple of years, for 3 of the 4, it was just insufficient quarterback play that wrecks a season. Absolutely wrecks a season. And as we go into this year, I think UCF feels good about where they are at the quarterback spot. I'm not speaking for Scott Frost, but last year, when it was the third week of August, and I was out there, I knew this is going to be a challenge, man. This is going to be a challenge. Now, Taven Jackson wasn't completely healthy in camp. That was a factor. But you knew this is going to be a rotation of people. And that's why I said I don't know if Scott Frost used a third of his playbook last year. I mean, I do know the latter part of the season, it was about as vanilla as you can get. I mean, there's guys' emotions, what Scott does. But as far as stuff, come on, man, that wasn't a playbook of 2017 or even Heupel in 2018 and 19. And the same deal. And look, Mike Novell picked the groceries. Scott picked the groceries. Just like Gustav with KJ Jefferson. I'm getting that guy from Arkansas that went to Gainesville and beat the Gators. I'm getting that DJ, that guy that at Clemson played Notre Dame. And then you're like, oh, my God, I am not getting that thing. And now what do we do? I remember driving home after the UCF game against the Gators, that KJ Jefferson performance, and that's it. I mean, you play the rest of the year, but you're like, well, this season's over. You put all your eggs in that, and now you can't put that back out there. And next thing you know, you're starting a true freshman a few weeks later because the quarterback position went so far downhill. Stuart Mandel from The Athletic talks more college football next.
We're marching down the field, and Marc Daniels is calling the plays. Welcome back to the Beat of Sports.
Monday, the Orlando Touchdown Club kicks off a new season, and you can go to OrlandoTDClub.com, check out how to become a member and the list of guest speakers. Stuart Mandel, the Athletic, is going to be the first guest speaker on Monday, and look forward to a great night, and Stuart is kind of join us. Of course, you can find his work at the Athletic, but these days he doesn't just cover college football, he covers eligibility and law. Welcome, Stuart. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. That's exactly right. It'd be easier. I'd have an easier time covering college football these days.
Yeah. I'm not going to ask all about the eligibility stuff, but I am curious your thoughts on what Lane Kiffin has become in the last few years, where he's now the poster child for this. So, like, he's not the first guy to do this. You know, Texas took a lineman back that was in the NFL a couple of weeks ago, but with Lane, it led to now we got to have rules, and all of a sudden we started caring about this. But the polarizing figure that Lane has become as you've watched the last few years, what have you witnessed?
He seemed to work so hard to repair his image, right? So many gushing features about how he does hot yoga now, and he's a family man again, and he just blew it all up with the way he handled his Ole Miss exit. And then I think once it became apparent that he's now the villain, he has fully embraced that. And I think you're seeing that in particular. Look, I'm not saying he's the only coach in America who would take guys who have played in the NFL preseason if they had the opportunity. But he's all in on it. And so from this whole off season, it just seems like, you know, 2 of the first 3 weekends of the season, LSU's in the primetime ABC game. And kind of like Notre Dame or maybe Alabama under Nick Saban, people are going to be tuning in to root against them.
I think Texas Tech's upset because they thought they were going to be the perfect villain for the season, and Lane's kind of ruining that narrative, isn't he?
Yeah, Texas Tech also embracing the villain role. The difference being, you know, part of being in the Big 12. I just don't know. There's a lot of games this year. People are going to be making a point to tune into Texas Tech, other than obviously if there's playoff ramifications.
They may add, I mean, Tommy Castellanos, I don't know, he may go there. You're among the very few, though, that believes they're not a lock to go 12-0 or 11-1 this season. Why?
Well, they definitely, you know, still have the most talented roster in the Big 12, and maybe even a little bit of a sizable margin to the second team. But I just feel like people have jumped way ahead where that program is based off one good season. And I'm a big believer in intangibles matter. And I think the drama of the Brendan Sorsby situation, which went on for months, those kind of things can have an effect on a team. I'm not saying they're going to be bad. I just took a little bit of a stab because, by the way, half these predictions, you know, when you predict the standings, they're not going to go to form. So I just took a little stab. I mean, I already thought BYU was the favorite, and then I ended up having Texas Tech third.
Which didn't sit well with Tech fans. I know that we're all over you for that. Look, I happen to think with UCF, obviously, I've got a greater interest in the Big 12. I do think BYU is better than some people think. Not that they have them outside the top 25, but, you know, from a coaching standpoint, and those linemen that are 23-plus years old, that matters, I think, sometimes in these games.
Yeah, no question. And that is, I mean, that's something used to be associated primarily with BYU, but look at Indiana last year. Virginia this year is like, I was looking at their roster and who they have coming back, and it's like, boy, these guys are one step from the retirement home already. It'll be interesting to see how that changes, though, with the new NCAA rule. Obviously, the one that's under attack right now, but theoretically, nobody older than 23 is going to be playing college football anymore.
Better versus deeper of the fun debate of an offseason of the SEC and the Big Ten. Is the Big Ten better, and is the SEC deeper? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just keep saying the Big Ten is ahead of the SEC at the top. I don't think there's any question about that. We see that on the field, and I think that will continue this year. But the SEC is still the deeper conference. They didn't show it, certainly, in bowl season last year. But, you know, even as the Big Ten is having this unbelievable run of national championships. The SEC is still putting more guys in the NFL. All the analytics, favored the SEC teams. I think it's something like 6 or 7 SEC teams are ahead of the. I'm going to have this backwards. There's 6 or 7 Big Ten teams lower in the preseason computer ratings than the lowest SEC team, right? But that being all said, you don't get to hang a banner for being the deepest conference.
You're based in California. What's the fan base view of Lincoln Riley and the state of USC? There seems to be optimism beyond California and a national view that this is going to be a good year with a very good quarterback. But what's the patient level for Lincoln Riley at USC now?
I don't think people are fully bought back in. There's cautious optimism, mostly because he did just sign the #1 high school class in the country. It seems like the school is all in now and fully invested in football, and they've got a really good quarterback in Jaden Mayava coming back, a third-year starter. So there's cautious optimism, but I think Lincoln Riley's done himself no favors with the way he's handled the last few years. There's always like at least 1 or 2 road losses that they shouldn't have lost. Even the comments, and he keeps saying it all off season about, it took us 4 years, but now the window is open. When you're a USC fan, you see Indiana do what they just did. Like, why did we need 4 years to possibly have this? But they have a really interesting schedule this year. Ohio State's coming there. They play at Oregon. They play at Indiana. This is their chance to show whether, Lincoln Riley can finally produce an elite team at USC.
Curious, when we go outside of our state here in a perception, I'm going to ask you about both schools. First, at Florida State, you've seen this before. You've covered the game a long time. When a majority of your fan base is almost rooting against your team because you want to change and coach, that doesn't bode well. Your thoughts on Mike Norvell's situation at Florida State?
Yeah, it's pretty dire. And I think this is maybe one of the first cases we've seen in the NIL era where the fans are so out on the coach that now suddenly the money dries up. From what I've understood from rapport, working on something on the Athletic right now about roster budgets, Florida State is definitely lower than you would expect for a national championship program. And that kind of showed when they did not go out and get one of the marquee quarterbacks in the portal. So at this point, it's kind of like a catch-22 for him. He's trying to prove he's still the guy to lead the program. He doesn't necessarily have the tools to do that right now.
John Sumrall, I thought had a good PR offseason. I don't know if that translates into wins and whatever numbers people may think. Your view on Sumrall and at least the image of an offseason for Florida and what people feel like is pointing in the right direction in Gainesville.
I'm definitely one of the optimistic ones, and actually my colleague Ralph Russo is even more optimistic. He put him in his playoff projection. You never know for sure when there's a coaching changeover how that first year is going to go. I think a big reason for our optimism, though, is John Sumrall's already done this twice. He's already walked into a new team and had a great first season. Frankly, had a great season all 4 years. Buster Faulkner obviously has his quarterback that he's familiar with, and Aaron Philo. And just looking at Florida's roster, they had a bad season last year, but there were definitely bright spots, and it seems like they kept all of them, right, or almost all of them. Jaden Ball's going to be one of the best running backs in the country, I would imagine. The very limited glimpse we got of their freshman receiver last year, he's really good. So there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, but obviously it's a tough schedule, and it's a big culture change. Like I never feel great about predicting a new coach coming into a rebuilding situation to have a great first season. That's asking a lot, but it happens. And I feel like they've got a lot of things working in their favor.
I don't know how close we are towards settling on a new playoff format. Maybe we're not that close. What's perfect for you? Is 12 okay? Is 24 too much? And where do you think we might settle for our future playoff format?
I mean, that's what's crazy about all these discussions is I don't know why we need to move on already from the one we have now. And there were talks about expanding it even before we actually got to a 12-team playoff. We've only had 2 years of it. I thought last year's in particular was great. The Indiana story really, not just the Indiana story, but have them playing Miami, and Miami, right? That couldn't have worked out much better. At Ohio State, Notre Dame the first year. And the controversies are more muted now. Like, I know Notre Dame fans were ticked, obviously, about what happened to them, but from an objective standpoint, it's like, well, they didn't win any big games. So this isn't quite 13-0 Florida State being left out a couple of years ago. But, everybody is now in favor of at least 16 among the conferences, including the SEC. And we're in this continued stalemate where the Big Ten and Tony Petitti are all in on 24, and they're not budging. And they've got the other, P4 conferences in Notre Dame in their corner. And I just think that's a disaster. If that happens, it's an absolute travesty for college football, because that's not what college football is about. To have, if you do that, Ohio State's already in the playoff before the season even starts. Your biggest games at the end of the season aren't number 1 versus number 5. It's which 8-3 team is going to keep themselves in the running. I just think a lot of people are just only looking at their own self-interest, right? Coaches are saying, well, I don't want to get fired, and there's only 12 spots, so let's double it. Obviously, the conferences see an opportunity to make money. And by the way, the craziest part of this that makes me wonder, like, is this real? Is that that they would give up the SEC championship game and the Big Ten championship game to have these, number, I don't remember the exact way it works out, but number 14 versus number 15 kind of first round games.
I mean, you don't like the idea of 16 and 17 playing on TNT at 12:30?
That's what it is.
Yeah. You're going to miss that.
Or number 9 seed Alabama against number 24 seed James Madison. No, it's kind of it's a perfect encapsulation of college football right now, where nobody's in charge, everybody's looking out for their own self-interest. The Big Ten and SEC decide everything for everybody else, and so the whole situation is, right, they are the two that basically have the only votes now, and they are standing in opposition to each other. We will see what happens. I mean, this stalemate, I assume, will continue till at least December. It'll be interesting to see, with the SEC having a 9-game schedule now and having probably some teams with some worse records that are in contention. I think for all of our sakes, if you don't want a 2014 playoff, let the SEC get as many bids as possible this year. Because if they have, 3 teams in, and a team that would have gone 10-2 went 9-3, and they get left out, that's when the SEC will become big fans of a 2014 playoff.
Yeah, listen, I don't like 24, and one of the biggest things to play what you just said. My fear is that Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, Auburn, Alabama, and the few rivalries left, they'll get off of the final game of the season because they don't want to lose late, or we'll begin to eliminate some of these games, maybe not the conference game, but the non-conference games, because no one wants that late loss, and we'll continue to lose these great traditional games that are part of the fabric of the sport, but everything's changing these days. Who knows? Stewart's going to be at the Orlando Touchdown Club coming up on Monday, August 31st. Please go to OrlandoTDClub.com. You can check out the whole list of speakers for the year. Learn how to become a member. If you want to buy a guest pass, you can do that for Monday. Stewart, safe travels. Look forward to seeing you on Monday. Thanks for hopping on today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Hoping to meet a lot of great college football fans on Monday there.
Thank you. Stewart Mandel, The Athletic, with some thoughts on the sport and many things that's beyond just the X and O's of playing football. We come back with a wrap of the Wednesday show next.
Time for the latest news, gossip, trends, and off-the-wall stories. Trends.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Liv is scaling back everything, including its employees, when the calendar turns to September. Yeah, when you're not going to be playing again in the future. Scale things back there. Shannon Sharp says, doesn't know what the big deal was with the Niners owner.
I don't see a big deal.
To each its own, man. To each its own. Yeah, what can I tell you? If you miss any of today's program, go where you get your favorite podcast and type in the Beat of Sports on Demand. Subscribe and get the show downloaded so you can listen whenever it's convenient for you. You can watch the video stream back by going to our YouTube page, 96.9 The Game Orlando. Click on the logo, the live button, and you can watch the video stream of the show. Thursday show tomorrow, Cam Miller previews games, week 0. Start of the final week of the NFL preseason, and a whole bunch more. Chris, have a good day.
You as well, Mark.
Good luck with the air conditioning.
Thank you.
Chris produced. I'm Marc Daniels. See you tomorrow for the Beat of Sports.